The film that I will be analyzing is Spirited Away by Hayao Miyazaki, which was released in 2001. Um, in the film, we see a lot of folk and shrine Shinto motifs present, which is good because it's Miyazaki affirming the basic Japanese cultural values, which can be a source of confidence for contemporary audiences. And Miyazaki refers to his very warm appreciation for the various very humble rural Shinto rituals that continue to this day throughout rural Japan, and he cites the solstice rituals when villagers call forth all the local kami and invite them to bathe in their baths. This apparently is the inspiration for the bathhouse locale in the scene, and his reference to kami invokes the essence of the Shinto tradition. Shrine Shinto believes that in order to experience a kami, or an unusual manifestation of vital power, one must have an aesthetically clear, pure, and cheerful heart and mind, also known as kokoro. To keep from polluting our kokoro, we must wash away any impurities and cleanse ourselves, both literally and speaking about our attitudes, in order to act with genuine sincerity towards others in the world, which will help in cleaning up matters and improving our condition or situation. This cleansing process is visualized by Miyazaki, who portrays it through Chihiro's story, in which we see Chihiro, who begins the film as a very whiny, sulky child, complaining that she has to move, but it ends with her being someone that can act with genuine sincerity towards others, and shows more confidence in herself, which shows her growth throughout the film and kind of how the cleansing process has helped her improve her condition and her attitude. The film alludes heavily to Japanese tradition and how man has moved away from its past. We see this in the extract when we have the river spirit entering the bathhouse, and it's just full of man-made garbage and pollution that it had absorbed. So this shows man's footprint on nature. And so again, this goes back to the main setting of the film, which is the bathhouse, because the Shrine Shinto believes that man must cleanse himself in order to act with sincerity towards others in the world, which is, when we say the world, that mainly is referring to nature. So also the bathhouse is placed in an abandoned theme park, which can add to the idea that Japan has moved away from old traditions. The film was made during the time the Japanese was undergoing heavy mechanization and industrialization and was going through a lot of unemployment due to this. This adds to how Miyazaki believed that man was falling out of touch with nature and that he was destroying the world. Again, we see this with the river spirit, full of man's pollution. Uh, the film fits into the main theme that is shown throughout most of Miyazaki's works, which is environmentalism. And another one of Miyazaki's films that expressed man's effect on nature was in Princess Mononoke, when a town called Irontown in the film, which was very industrialized and mechanized, it causes the corruption of forest spirits and animals around it. And so again, this ties back into the environmentalism theme that Miyazaki portrays in most of his films. Um, in the extract, Chihiro is wearing a pink set of working clothes, and the working clothes represents Chihiro's shift from a child to someone who is working and responsible and is able to take on the responsibilities that go along with having a job. This goes to Miyazaki's aiming the film towards, he says, 12-year-old girls, and he wanted to show them a phase in their life that they will all eventually have to face with growing up and taking a job and the responsibilities that go along with that. So we see this here in Chihiro's outfit as she's finally moving into her role as being an adult and becoming more confident in her abilities. Also, the pink represents the unconditional love and nurturing, which again is drawing back to Miyazaki's allusion to the Shinto traditions and the belief that man must act with genuine generosity and sincerity towards others in the world. In the extract, whenever the witch Yubaba is shown, it is in a low angle shot, and really this portrayal gives Yubaba a higher position and further adds to her commanding ability as she shouts her commands from her higher vantage point. This is contrasted later in the extract when facing the river spirit after it had been cleansed, because both Yubaba and Chihiro, as well as the other workers behind them in the background, are shown through a high angle shot, looking down on them, making them seem smaller and less powerful. This is a much different view of Yubaba, which represents the kind of the respect and the power towards the great river spirit. and its place in Japanese tradition. When a spirit erupts from the bath, also, the camera follows it upwards, again showing the might and the significance of the river spirit. Character proxemics in this extract are mainly focused on Yubaba and Chihiro. With Yubaba at the beginning of the extract, she is above Chihiro on the second floor when she is telling her what to do, while simultaneously staying out of reach from the stink spirit. This shows her role as the owner of the bathhouse, as well as her mastery over Chihiro and kind of her position as just controlling others and telling them what to do, while staying out of it herself. Yubaba eventually does come down to the first floor, but even then she stands on a ledge, putting herself up above everyone else still. Character proxemics to Chihiro in this extract show how Chihiro is beginning to grow and mature. While pulling the man-made junk out of the river spirit, Chihiro is not only the closest, but she is also the only one to grab hold of the junk with her hands, versus just pulling on a rope like everyone else was doing. This shows Chihiro's courage and how she has grown, and she's now becoming more confident in herself, which goes back to Miyazaki's use of the bathhouse and her transformation from a child into someone more confident and able to act more generous towards others. Lighting also helps with the theme in the film of good versus evil, because really no character in the film is all good, and nor are they all evil. So in the extract, we see Yubaba with a key lighting coming from above, which creates a lot of shadows on her face and really exasperates her wrinkles and the crevices and cracks on her face. This coincides heavily with her nature, which isn't good or bad exclusively, but really is just a mix of both. At the end of the extract, amongst all the commotion and cheering, with lots of movement and quick jump cutting, we cut to No Face in the background, separate from the crowd and standing still compared to everyone else. His shot is slow, and it sets a different speed and tone, and quickly draws attention to itself because of how heavily it contrasts against all the action and movement. So we know that this is important, and it really does help the audience zone focus in on No Face here and understand that something significant was happening. The film of the genre is animated, obviously. Most of the frames are hand-drawn by Miyazaki himself, which is contrasts highly from other Western animated films of the time, which really which relied heavily on CGI, especially Disney here in the States. The film also falls into the adventure because, as a whole, it is an adventure. The adventure is a metaphor and goes back to Miyazaki, who said the movie is aimed to connect to young girls and shows a journey from a young girl afraid of everything growing into someone much more confident in herself. So we follow Chihiro's journey, her adventure through the film. And it also falls into the film genre, as while it mainly takes place in the spirit realm, which helps create a sharp contrast when comparing the beginning of the film, which is meant to be heavily realistic and down to earth, until Chihiro enters the spirit realm, which is full of fantastic creatures and mythical beings and elements. So the extract falls into these genre categories as well, because we see Chihiro still in the bathhouse, surrounded by all these cool creatures and beasts, and must perform the task of cleaning the river spirit, which is obviously not something that's an everyday task for your average person. So this falls into the adventure and fantasy category easily. Spirited Away grossed over 30 million, over 30.4 billion yen, making it the highest grossing film in Japanese history. And really, it had very little marketing in the US and only opened in 150 theaters in 2002. After winning the award for the Best Animated Feature at the 2003 Oscars, however, that number expanded to 714 theaters. Roger Ebert said that Spirited Away is surely one of the finest of all animated films, and it has its foundations in the traditional bedrock of animation, which is frame-by-frame drawing, which again goes back to Miyazaki hand-drawing the majority of his frames. And Roger Ebert gave the film 4 out of 4 stars, and again praises Miyazaki's limitless creativity and preference of frames drawn hand by hand versus computer animation, which again was mostly the norm for movies here in the US. Now, I chose this extract because of its significance towards the main theme of environmentalism and man's impact on nature, in the film as a whole. Because here, we have the river spirit coming in, and it's been so polluted that it's turned into this disgusting stink spirit. So it really does portray man's his effects on nature, and it does go into the historical context of the film as it was released during a time of heavy industrialization, and where there was a lot of pollution going on with the mechanization, and we had all this unemployment and just these depressing times in Japan at the time. So this is why I chose the film, and this concludes my presentation.